Bitter melon can grow a vine more than 12 feet long, yet still give you no fruit if you miss two crucial steps: training the vine early and getting the female flowers pollinated. Hi, I'm May from May's Chinese Garden. Let's take one hard seed, grow it vertically, and follow it all the way to the first harvest. Bitter melon is also called bitter gourd. It is a heat-loving member of the cucumber and squash family, but it grows much more vigorously than many new gardeners expect. That vigorous growth is exactly why we are growing it vertically. A strong trellis keeps the vine organized, improves airflow, makes the flowers easier to inspect, and keeps the developing fruit away from wet soil. But the trellis needs to be ready before the vine starts racing upwards. We will come back to that in a moment. First, choose the right seed for your garden. There are two broad types you will commonly see. Chinese bitter melon is usually longer, broader, and light green, with smoother rounded ridges. Indian bitter melon is usually smaller, darker, and more pointed, with a rougher surface. Neither type is automatically better. Choose according to the flavor and shape you want, the length of your warm season, and the space available on your trellis. Read the seed packet carefully. Maturity estimates often fall somewhere around 50 to 70 days, but that number is only a guide. Cool nights, transplant stress, variety, and poor pollination can all delay the first useful fruit. If your summer is short, choose an early maturing variety and begin indoors about 4 weeks before it is safe to plant outside. If your growing season is long and consistently warm, you can sow directly where the vine will grow. Now look closely at the seed. Bitter melon seeds have a thick, hard coat. This is one reason germination can be slow and uneven. Soak the seeds in clean water overnight or for up to about 24 hours before sowing. Some growers also file one edge of the seed very lightly. If you do this, remove only a tiny amount of the outer coat. Do not cut deeply into the seed, because damaging the embryo will prevent germination rather than improve it. Soaking alone is the safer method for a beginner. Use a small individual pot for each seed if you are starting indoors. Bitter melon does not benefit from having its roots repeatedly disturbed, so an individual pot makes transplanting easier. Fill it with a clean, free-draining seed-starting mix. Plant the seed approximately ½ inch to 1 inch deep, following the packet if it gives a specific depth. Cover it, water gently, and allow the extra water to drain. Warmth is essential now. The seeds need warm, moist conditions, and the University of Florida gives a germination range of approximately 60 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 16 to 35 degrees Celsius. In practice, keeping the mix steadily warm around 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit or 24 to 29 Celsius usually gives the seed a much better start than leaving it on a cold windowsill. Keep the mix damp but never saturated. A hard seed in cold waterlogged compost may rot before it ever opens. Do not assume the seed has failed after 4 or 5 days. Bitter melon can take its time. Check the temperature and moisture before digging through the pot. Once a seedling appears, give it strong light immediately. Weak indoor light produces a long, thin stem that struggles when it is moved outside. Keep the seedling warm and turn the pot if it leans towards the window. When it has established true leaves and outdoor conditions are suitable, begin hardening it off. Hardening off means introducing the seedling gradually to outdoor sun, wind, and temperature changes. Start with a short period in a sheltered position, then increase the time and exposure over roughly a week. Do not move a warm-grown seedling directly into a cold, windy garden for an entire day. That sudden change can stop its growth just when the season needs to begin. Plant outside only after frost danger has passed and the weather has become reliably warm. Bitter melon is frost tender. In a cool climate, choose the warmest sunny place you have. A south-facing wall, greenhouse, polytunnel, or protected patio can give the vine the extra heat it needs. In a hot climate, full sun is still valuable, but steady moisture becomes more important. The goal is strong light and warmth without repeatedly drying the roots. If you are planting in the ground, use fertile, well-drained soil improved with compost. Avoid any place where rainwater stands around the roots. If you're growing in a container, give one vine a large pot rather than crowding several vines into a small bucket. A container of at least 10 gallons is a sensible starting point, and a larger one will hold moisture more steadily. Make sure it has generous drainage holes and fill it with quality potting mix rather than heavy garden soil. The exact container size is not a magic number. The important point is that a vine capable of growing 12 to 16 feet needs enough root volume, water, and support to sustain that growth. Now build the support. A mature bitter melon vine can become heavy with leaves, side shoots, and fruit. A few thin canes pushed loosely into the soil are rarely enough. Use a trellis approximately 6 feet tall with strong netting, wire mesh, horizontal cords, or another surface the tendrils can grip. Secure it against wind before planting. If the vine is in a pot, anchor the trellis independently or use a structure with a wide, stable base so the full container cannot topple. Do not attach a heavy trellis after the roots have filled the pot. Pushing stakes through an established root system can cause unnecessary damage. Place the plant at the base of the support. If you started it indoors, slide the root ball out carefully and plant it at approximately the same depth it was growing before. Water thoroughly to settle the mix around the roots. For plants in the ground, allow generous space. Commercial guidance may use roughly 3 to 5 feet between plants because the vines branch heavily. In a small garden, you can guide growth across a broad trellis, but squeezing several plants onto one narrow panel creates a dense wall that is harder to water, inspect, and keep healthy. One well-grown vine is more useful than 3 starved vines fighting for the same light. During the first stage of growth, your priorities are simple: warmth, sunlight, even moisture, and a clear path to the trellis. When the plant has around 4 to 6 leaves, it begins producing tendrils. Gently direct the leading shoot towards the support. If necessary, tie it loosely with a soft plant tie, leaving room for the stem to thicken. Never use thin wire or pull the stem tightly against the frame. The tie is only there until the tendrils take hold. Check the vine every few days. Guide wandering shoots sideways and upwards so the foliage spreads across the trellis instead of forming one tangled bundle. You do not need to twist every tendril by hand or aggressively prune a young plant. First, let it establish enough leaves to power its growth. Remove only broken, diseased, or badly congested growth unless your variety's supplier gives a more specific pruning system. Water deeply enough to moisten the entire root area, then let excess water drain. In a container, check the mix frequently because a large leafy vine can use water quickly in hot or windy weather. Do not follow a rigid schedule such as 1 cup every day. Feel the mix. When the surface begins to dry, water slowly and thoroughly. The root zone should remain consistently moist without staying waterlogged. A layer of clean organic mulch can reduce moisture loss in the ground or a large container, but keep it slightly away from the main stem. Feed according to the fertility already present in your soil or potting mix. Compost and a balanced vegetable fertilizer can support the early plant, but more fertilizer does not automatically mean more fruit. Repeated heavy nitrogen feeding can produce a magnificent curtain of leaves while flowering and fruiting lag behind. Follow the product label and judge the plant rather than feeding it every time you water. Now we reach the stage that confuses many first-time growers: flowering. The first flowers may appear roughly 4 weeks after sowing in very warm conditions, although cooler climates can take longer. The first blooms are often male, so do not panic when they fall without producing fruit. Male and female flowers are separate, but they grow on the same plant. The easiest way to identify them is to look behind the petals. A male flower sits on a thin plain stem. A female flower has a tiny bitter melon directly behind it. It already looks like a miniature warty fruit before the flower opens. That tiny fruit is only a possibility. It will begin enlarging after successful pollination. If pollination fails, it may yellow, shrivel, and drop. Outdoors, bees and other insects normally move pollen from male flowers to female flowers. Avoid blocking their access once flowers open, and avoid unnecessary insecticide use, especially while pollinators are active. In a greenhouse, screened balcony, or garden with few insects, hand pollination can make the difference between a leafy vine and an actual harvest. Do it during the morning or daytime while fresh flowers are open. Choose an open male flower and remove it from the vine. Peel the petals back carefully to expose the pollen-bearing center, then touch and roll that center against the stigma inside an open female flower. You can also move the pollen with a small, clean, dry artist's brush. Use pollen from a freshly opened male flower and coat the center of the female flower gently. Then leave the flower alone. Do not spray it immediately with water. Within the next several days, the result becomes clear. A pollinated miniature fruit stays green and begins lengthening. An unsuccessful one stops growing, turns pale or yellow, and eventually drops. Do not blame every dropped female flower on a lack of pollen. Severe heat, cold, drought, root stress, or a weak young plant can also cause fruit to abort. That is why steady care still matters after hand pollination. As the fruit develops, keep guiding new vines over open parts of the trellis. Remove damaged leaves and inspect both sides of the foliage. Bitter melon can face many of the same problems as cucumbers and other cucurbits, including cucumber beetles, aphids, mites, fruit flies in some regions, and powdery or downy mildew. Do not treat a guest problem. Identify the pest or disease first. Use physical controls when practical, and follow local guidance and the complete label for anything approved on an edible crop. Airflow, clean watering practices, crop rotation, and removing badly diseased material can prevent a small problem from spreading through the entire trellis. Avoid soaking the leaves late in the evening. Water the root zone where possible and give wet foliage time to dry. Now, the first fruit may grow faster than you expect. This creates the final important decision. When should you pick it? Bitter melon is normally harvested immature for cooking. Do not wait for it to become fully ripe like a sweet melon. Start with the expected size and color of your particular variety. A Chinese type may be much longer and paler than an Indian type, so one universal measurement will mislead you. The fruit should feel firm and look fully formed, with its ridges or bumps clearly developed. Its skin should still be green or light green and should not yet be soft. Watch closely for the first yellow or orange change. That color means the fruit is moving beyond the normal green culinary stage. It will soften. The seed coverings inside can turn red, and an overripe fruit may split open. The exact number of days is less reliable than the fruit itself. Some varieties can begin producing harvestable fruit around 50 days from sowing in warm conditions. Others need 70 days or longer. Once fruit begins swelling, inspect it every day. When it reaches the correct size and remains firm and green, cut the stem with clean scissors or pruners. Do not wrench the fruit from the vine and damage the shoot that may carry later flowers. Harvest frequently. Allowing every fruit to progress towards full seed maturity can slow the production of new fruit, while regular picking encourages you to keep noticing flowers and young fruit at the correct stage. Use the harvested fruit within a few days for the best quality. Wash it, cut it lengthwise, and remove the central pith and seeds before cooking. The flesh can then be sliced for stir-fries, soups, egg dishes, or another properly tested recipe. Bitter melon is supposed to taste bitter. Salting, blanching, or combining it with strongly flavored ingredients can soften that bitterness, but it will not turn it into a sweet vegetable. Do not make medical claims about the harvest or use concentrated bitter melon products as a substitute for professional care. This channel is teaching you how to grow a culinary vegetable, not prescribing a treatment. So from seed to first harvest, the whole method comes down to 7 decisions. Choose a variety that can mature during your warm season. Soak the hard seed and germinate it in warm, evenly moist mix. Move it outside only after frost and cold conditions have passed. Give one vigorous vine, fertile, well-drained soil, or a genuinely large container. Install a strong 6-foot trellis before the vine takes over. Learn the difference between a plain-stemmed male flower and a female flower with a miniature fruit behind it. Then hand-pollinate if insects are not doing the job. And finally, harvest the fruit while it is full-sized for its variety, firm and still green, before yellow or orange color tells you it has gone too far. If your vine has plenty of flowers but no fruit, look at the flowers tomorrow morning. Finding one female bloom and pollinating it correctly may be the moment your entire harvest changes. Tell me in the comments whether you're growing the long Chinese type or the smaller Indian type. And subscribe, because next time we'll grow garlic chives once and learn how to keep harvesting them for years. Edited 5 files plus 184 non-80 review changes, undo review creator. Hive channels, Eastern Gardening Tips channel, briefed MD creator. Hive channels, Eastern Gardening Tips channel, briefed MD plus 1 Javero creator. Hive channels, Eastern Gardening Tips decisions MD creator. Hive channels, Eastern Gardening Tips descripts 06 grow bitter melon vertically, seed to first harvest. Narration only MD creator. Hive channels, Eastern Gardening Tips Javero scripts 06 grow bitter melon vertically, seed to first harvest. Narration only MD creator. Hive channels, Eastern Gardening Tips scripts 06 grow bitter melon vertically, seed to first harvest. Narration only MD plus 169 Javero show 2 more files, 1:17 p.m. Plant garlic chives once. Harvest for years. Okay, do this topic. Next 1:19 p.m. worked for 2 M14s. Garlic chives can give you fresh leaves year after year, but only if you make 3 good decisions: where you plant them, how you make the first cuts, and what you do when the clump becomes crowded. Hi, I'm May from May's Chinese Garden. Let's plant them once and build a harvest that keeps returning. Garlic chives are also called Chinese chives. Their botanical name is Allium tuberosum, and although they belong to the onion family, they are not the same plant as ordinary chives. Ordinary chives usually have thin, hollow, round leaves and pink or purple flowers. Garlic chives have flatter, broader leaves, a mild garlic flavor, and clusters of white star-shaped flowers. They are also perennial. That means the roots and small underground bulbs can survive from one growing season to the next. In cold climates, the leaves may disappear completely during winter, but an established clump can return when conditions improve in spring. This does not mean every plant will live forever without care. Poor drainage can rot the roots, aggressive harvesting can weaken a young clump, and overcrowding eventually reduces its vigor. So before planting anything, choose how you want to begin. You have three practical options: seed, a nursery plant, or a division taken from an established clump. Seed is inexpensive and gives you many plants, but it is the slowest route to a substantial harvest. Garlic chives can take roughly 80 to 90 days to reach maturity from seed, and the first-year clump will still be smaller than an established plant. A nursery plant is faster because it already has roots and leaves. A division is usually the quickest option. A division is simply a section separated from a mature clump with both roots and growing points attached. If a gardener offers you a division, make sure you know the plant was grown for edible use and is genuinely garlic chives. Do not harvest unidentified leaves simply because they smell like onion or garlic. If you're starting from seed, spring is the simplest time for most gardeners. Fill small pots or cells with clean seed starting mix and moisten it before sowing. Plant the black seeds about 1/4 of an inch deep. You can sow 2 or 3 seeds together in each cell because garlic chives naturally form clumps. Cover them lightly and water with a gentle flow so the seeds stay in place. Keep the mix evenly moist, not waterlogged. Germination commonly takes around 7 to 14 days in suitable conditions, but old seed, low temperatures, or uneven moisture can make it slower. Once the seedlings appear, move them into strong light. A bright window may not be enough if the seedlings begin stretching and leaning. Give them the strongest natural light available or use a suitable growing light. The seedlings look delicate at first. Do not rush to harvest them just because the leaves are technically edible. Your first goal is to build roots and a thicker clump. When the seedlings are several inches tall and outdoor conditions are suitable, harden them off gradually. Give them a short period outside in a sheltered position, then increase their exposure over roughly a week before transplanting. If you bought a plant or received a division, inspect the roots before planting. Healthy roots should be firm rather than slimy, and each division should have living shoots or obvious growing points. Now choose the permanent position carefully because this plant may occupy it for years. Garlic chives grow best in full sun, but they can tolerate some partial shade. Strong light normally gives you denser, sturdier growth. In a very hot climate, a little protection from intense afternoon sun may help prevent excessive stress. The soil should be fertile, evenly moist, and well-drained. Those last two conditions need to exist together. Garlic chives appreciate reliable moisture while actively growing, but they should not sit in saturated soil. If water remains in the planting hole after rain, improve the drainage or choose a raised bed or container. Continually wet soil can cause bulb and root rot. Mixing mature compost into poor soil can improve structure and provide gentle fertility. If you are uncertain about the soil, use a soil test rather than adding strong fertilizer at random. Space permanent clumps about 12 inches apart. A young transplant may look lonely at that distance, but the clump expands as new shoots and small bulbs form. Plant it at the same depth it was growing before. Firm the soil gently around the roots, water thoroughly, and add a light mulch to reduce moisture loss and weed competition. Keep the mulch slightly away from the center of the plant so the crown is not buried under wet material. A container is also an excellent choice, especially if you want to control spreading. Use a pot with open drainage holes and quality potting mix. A container roughly 12 inches wide and at least 8 to 10 inches deep gives a young clump useful room to expand. A larger pot will hold moisture longer and delay the need for division. Do not put garden soil by itself into a pot. It can compact, drain poorly, and make it difficult to manage the root zone. Leave a little space below the rim so you can water deeply without washing the mix over the side. Container plants need closer attention than plants in the ground. The mix warms, cools, and dries faster. Check it regularly during active growth and water when the surface begins to dry. Water slowly until the entire root area is moist and excess escapes through the drainage holes. A quick splash that wets only the surface encourages shallow roots and does little for the center of a mature clump. Newly planted garlic chives should not be allowed to dry severely during their first season. Once established in the ground, they become much more tolerant, but regular moisture still produces better quality leaves than repeated drought. Feed lightly. If you plant it into fertile soil or fresh potting mix, the plant may need very little additional fertilizer at first. In later seasons, a small amount of compost or a labeled balanced feed at the beginning of active growth is normally more sensible than constant heavy feeding. Too much fertilizer can produce weak growth, create salt problems in containers, and waste money. The aim is a steady clump, not the fastest leaves possible. Now we reach the part that determines whether harvest for years becomes true or merely sounds good in the title, the first harvest. Wait until the plant is growing strongly and has enough leaves to recover after cutting from seed. That may take around 80 to 90 days. A well-rooted transplant or division may be ready sooner. but give it several weeks to establish before taking a substantial cut. For a new or small clump, take only what you need. You can remove a modest portion of the leaves while leaving plenty of green growth to feed the roots. General chive guidance allows roughly 3 or 4 cuts during the first year. That is a useful ceiling, not a target you must force the plant to meet. A slow or recently transplanted clump may need fewer. The correct cutting method is simple. Gather a small section of leaves and cut them with clean scissors approximately 1 to 2 inches above the soil. Cutting low encourages a fresh flush from the base and prevents the plant from becoming a mixture of long old tips and short new leaves. Do not cut into the crown or scrape the blades through the soil. And do not tug the leaves out by hand because pulling can loosen a young plant or damage the bulbs. After harvesting, water if the soil is dry and allow the clump to regrow before cutting it again. An established clump can usually be harvested much more regularly during active growth. Some extension guidance suggests cutting mature chives about monthly. Your plant gives the final answer. Harvest again when the leaves have returned to a useful height and the clump looks full and vigorous. If the new leaves become shorter, paler, or slower after each cut, stop harvesting and correct the cause. The plant may need water, light, nutrients, more root space, or simply more recovery time. The youngest fresh leaves usually have the best texture. Older leaves can become coarse, especially once the plant puts energy into flowering. Garlic chives often send up taller flower stalks in summer or early autumn, depending on the climate. These stalks carry rounded clusters of small white flowers. The flowers are edible when properly identified and can be used as a garnish. They are also valuable to bees and other pollinating insects, but flowering creates a decision. If your priority is leaf production, cut the flower stalks near the base as they appear. This keeps harvesting simple and prevents the plant from investing as much energy in flowers and seeds. If you want flowers for pollinators or the kitchen, allow some to open. Then remove the spent heads before the seeds ripen. This is not merely about keeping the plant tidy. Garlic chives can self-seed aggressively. One attractive flower head can become many black seeds, and missed seedlings may appear far beyond the original clump. In some areas, garlic chives can become invasive or difficult to control. Check local guidance before planting, particularly if you live near natural land. A container and prompt deadheading are safer choices when spreading is a concern. Do not place a pot where mature seeds can simply fall through a balcony or wash into a drain. Containment still requires attention. At the end of the growing season, the plant behaves differently according to climate. In a mild region, garlic chives may remain green for much of the year. In a cold region, the leaves can yellow and die back after frost. That is normal dormancy, not necessarily the death of the plant. Remove collapsed or diseased foliage once it is no longer useful. Mark the position so you do not accidentally dig into the sleeping clump during winter. Plants in the ground are generally hardy across a wide range of cold climates, but roots in pots are more exposed than roots in garden soil. In a severe winter, move the container to a protected, unheated position, insulate the pot, or follow local advice for overwintering perennial containers. Do not bring a dormant plant into a dark, heated room and expect perfect leaves. Indoor chives need strong light, and winter growth is often slower. If light is poor, allow the plant to rest and wait for spring. When new shoots return, remove dead material, add a light layer of compost, and resume watering as active growth increases. After several seasons, you may notice that the center of the clump is crowded, growth is weaker, or the leaves are becoming thinner. This is the signal for division. Garlic chive clumps are commonly divided about every 3 years or every 3 to 4 years depending on their growth. Division restores space around the roots and gives you several younger clumps from one original plant. Spring is an easy time to do it because new growth is visible and the divisions have a full season to establish. Division can also be done in autumn where conditions allow. Water the plant the day before if the soil is dry. Lift the entire clump carefully with a fork or remove it from its container. Shake or tease away enough soil to see the separate groups of bulbs and roots. Pull the clump apart by hand or use a clean knife or spade if the roots are too dense. Each new section should have healthy roots and several shoots. Do not divide it into dozens of single weak stems just to create the maximum number of plants. A sturdy small group establishes faster. Discard any rotten, badly damaged, or diseased material. Replant the healthiest divisions at their previous depth, space them generously, and water them well. Then pause harvesting for several weeks. The leaves may look usable immediately, but the divided roots need time to reconnect with the soil. One mature clump can now become a row, several containers, or a plant shared with another gardener. That is the real power behind this crop. Planting once does not give you only repeated leaves. It can also give you new plants without returning to seed every year. Garlic chives are generally dependable, but there are a few problems worth watching. Orange spots or pustules on the leaves may indicate leek rust. Poor airflow and dense, wet foliage can make disease problems worse. Remove badly affected leaves, avoid watering over the foliage late in the day, and use local disease guidance before applying any treatment. Aphids may gather on tender growth or flower stalks. Inspect the plant before reacting. A strong stream of water may remove a small colony, while natural predators often help outdoors. If the entire clump becomes yellow, soft, or foul-smelling while the soil stays wet, investigate the roots. That points towards drainage or rot rather than a need for more water. Never apply a product simply because it says it works on ornamental flowers. Garlic chives are an edible crop, so anything used must be permitted for that crop and applied exactly according to the label. Once harvested, garlic chives are best used fresh. Rinse them, dry them, and cut them with a sharp knife or scissors. Their mild garlic flavor works in eggs, dumpling fillings, noodles, soups, stir-fries, and many other dishes. Add them near the end of cooking when you want to preserve more of their fresh flavor. If you harvest more than you can use, chop and freeze the leaves in a sealed container. Freezing normally preserves their usefulness better than drying, which can reduce the color, texture, and fresh flavor. So here is the full system. Start with seed if you are patient, or use a healthy division for a faster harvest. Choose full sun or light shade, fertile soil, and excellent drainage. Give each clump about 12 inches of room or contain it in a generously sized pot. Keep a new plant evenly moist while it builds roots. Harvest established leaves by cutting 1 to 2 inches above the soil, but take fewer cuts in the first year and allow proper regrowth between them. Remove flowers before seed ripens unless you deliberately want seedlings, and when the clump becomes crowded after roughly 3 years, divide and replant it instead of letting it slowly lose strength. That is how one small plant becomes years of harvests, not through a gardening trick, but through correct cutting, controlled flowering, and timely division. Tell me in the comments whether you would start garlic chives from seed or ask another gardener for a division, and subscribe because next time we'll look at another crop you can grow at home without needing a large garden.